Okay, so welcome to Wednesday night at Living Word Family Church. This is These Final Days Ministries. I'm Pastor Ryan Speakman, serving under my favorite pastor in the whole world, Pastor Maureen Collins. We're going to have fun tonight, like we always do. So, a few announcements. First of all, you guys know one of my favorite sayings at the start of the class is "No."
News is good news.
Very good. Thank you, Kim. So,
It's coming soon.
Oh, and coming soon, trademark. We're going to talk about that in a second. So, so tonight, no news is good news. And there's always news, but it's just the same story in Israel. Israel right now is just on the verge of an open war on two borders right now. The southern border with Gaza. So Elijah is a geek like me, and I mean, that's a compliment, of course. And he downloaded the Red Alert app that I've shown you guys before. This is right out of Israel. I don't know where it's broadcast from, probably Tel Aviv. And this sends out rocket alerts whenever there's a rocket fire, from anywhere toward Israel. And this is to notify the local population. Hey, and it'll say like the actual, what's it doing? It'll say the actual, region, town, neighborhood, whatever they need to do, however precise they can be to alert the residents to get into a bomb shelter right away. So this is actually for use by Israelis, but I got it because I like to, be right on top of what's happening there in real time. So Elijah, again, he got this too. It's called Red Alert. And so was it over the weekend? It just started going off and off and off like crazy. So dozens and dozens. In fact, just a couple of days ago, it did again, but there's like, dozens of alerts going off. And sure enough, Hamas, I said no news. I'm trying to keep this super brief. I don't have a slide for it or anything, but Hamas fired something like 200 rockets toward Israel just, since the last time we met. And so Hamas is trying to provoke an all-out war again with Israel. They're crazy. Israel has said, at least I've heard it said, when I was up at the Golden Heights last year, and they were debriefing us, so to speak, on the situation, down in Gaza. The sergeant who was giving us the presentation, he said, "Look, next time we go in, we're taking out Hamas." I think Hamas knows it. What's interesting, though, is that I kind of pinged Noam and his father, David, about this. My friends in Israel, who, that's their whole career in life, so to speak, is tracking this stuff and reporting to the world. But David came back and said that there's a crisis of cowardice in Israel right now. So I asked him what he meant by that, and his point is that Hamas is firing all these rockets at Israel, and Israel is holding back so much because there's so much.
Fight.
What's that?
He's wanting to fight, is what you're saying.
Hamas, which is an organization,
No. David is.
David, of course, yeah. David, Noam, there are a lot of Israelis, probably up in the millions, who would love to see Israel go right back into Gaza, depose Hamas, and reoccupy Gaza, because things were better for everyone than, especially the people in Gaza, whether they would admit that or not. So yes, David absolutely would like to see Israel do what I know that the whole IDF, I say the whole IDF, I mean all the ones I've talked to, they want to do that, go in and wipe out Hamas. It would be the smartest thing Israel could do, but the people at the highest echelons are afraid of the publicity. I mean, they've been so much under the gun, from the United Nations. And my thought, which is the thought that a lot of people in Israel have made to me, is, what difference does it make? The whole world's against Israel already. How much more anti-Israel can the world get? Who cares? Do what's in the best interest. So that's happening in the South right now. Israel's kind of sitting on its hands, so to speak. We'll see what happens there. Meantime, up in the Golden Heights, Israel over the last week has struck at least one major Syrian air base up by Aleppo. And then there was some story about the Syrians taking over a little hill in the Golden Heights, which is really a big deal because the Syrians have never been able to recapture 1 inch of the Golden Heights since Israel took it over in 1973, and then they annexed it in 1981. So that's kind of a big deal. Israel got it back in a matter of minutes, of course, or hours, let's say. But so there's skirmishes up there. But anyways, just what do I always say? Keep watching and praying. So the announcement I wanted to make. So again, that's my no news is good news in under 5 minutes. Wow, that was my version of no news. On the record, get me talking. So what I wanted to announce about our technical situation, which is more for the people viewing by Facebook and YouTube, I got some feedback on last week's video that the audio was just bad. It was almost inaudible. So tonight you might notice there's not a million wires going across the floor.
And you sound louder.
Well, Elijah cranked me up a little bit on the speakers. That's just for in here. But we'll see how this goes. It's probably not going to be great on the video, but we actually are just using the camera's mic tonight. And I'm saying this more for our internet audience. So apologies if this is terrible. By next week, we're hoping to have a completely new audio system that plugs directly into the laptop. And then the laptop will record the audio by next week. Elijah's looking at me skeptically.
I hope so.
Huh?
I hope so.
That's what we're trying for. So anyways, so I put on Facebook, bear with us while we work out our technical difficulties. Haven't I been saying this since we first started filming this class? Hey, it's a low budget operation, but we do what we can. So yeah. So anyways, all right. I have two little announcements tonight. One, well, not so little really. The first announcement, I will be on KNOB tomorrow from 2 o'clock until they kick me off the air, which is usually by about 5. I tell them I'll be there from 2 to 3, and then about 5 o'clock, something else happens, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. So just, if you happen to be in your car or whatever, and you can also listen online, and then people on watching this on, well, actually, I'm not going to even post this video before then, so never mind. But yeah, you can always listen to KNLB from anywhere in the world, on the internet. So, and we have a bunch of KNLB people in here, Elijah on the camera, and Mike and Chris here. Wave, look back at the camera and wave, make you famous, because Mike is one of my favorite radio voices, but you never see his face, and look how good looking he is. So I finally got your face on camera. So this will be for KNLB's pledge drive. So, and I really do encourage you guys, support your celebration station, is the saying that we do, and that's what keeps that radio station on the air.
Pray about it and see what the Lord prays on the righteousness to the radio station. Now those straight upon yourself or pray about it, and the Lord will reveal to you what He wants you to say to the radio station.
Amen. Yeah. Did you guys hear that? Thank you, Cheryl.
Is that what
Yeah, pray about it.
Brian, be bold, because there's not much about end times being spoken over the radio.
They're asleep.
You
Everybody's
and
asleep.
David Jeremiah,
Everybody's
people
asleep.
need to what church needs to do.
Yeah, me and David Jeremiah. That's it. Just me and him.
You betcha.
And and I got to tell you, Farron and Debbie, it's just like Pastor Marine here at the church. So gracious. I mean, to me, it's like this is the Holy Spirit at work. That Pastor Marine gives me a microphone every week, and these guys have me on the air, and I'm not sure that. In fact, I'm sure that we don't see eye to eye on every single point of doctrine, and yet Farron is and Debbie, Miss Debbie, so gracious. They invite me on the air all the time. They let me talk about this stuff, even though it's a pledge drive. We're supposed to be talking about the radio station. Of course, I talk about my stuff, and Farron has even talked about, and we're still kicking this around, having an actual debate on air about the rapture, the timing of the rapture. I just have to find some pastor in town who wants to go on and debate me, and I haven't found any takers yet. So if you know any pre-tribulation guys,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Steve, right there.
Oh yeah, I know, but we can't go on there and debate. We
Why not?
because we like each other too much. Actually, I'm joking. That might be perfect.
Here, let me in a
Yeah.
nutshell. Both are true. Both are true. Only a remnant's going. Most of them are going to be left behind to go through the tribulation. Both are true. Because you have the elect that are saved, they're the church, they're the special Laodicean, he'll spew you out of their mouth, and all the other churches, and they're going to be left behind. The only one going really is Philadelphia church, pretty much, because God didn't have anything problem with them.
Yeah.
That's the remnant. So you're going to have both scenarios going on. So
Yeah.
pre and post and all that, well, you got both.
Well, so what Farron wants is he wants actual pastors to discuss this. I'd love to have you guys. Why don't you guys come in there, pop in, call in, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Now Jessica's going to cringe when I say this, but I'm actually hitting up her father-in-law, Pastor Ted, to be the pre-trip guy, and he
Oh,
we know he did. He doesn't back down from the confrontation. So, and he and I mean, love the guy. I think he likes me okay. So I think he would be great. Anyways, stay tuned for that. Now, I will be making an announcement on the air tomorrow, kind of a big announcement. Now Kim mentioned my other saying in here that I'm always saying. What's the other saying? coming soon TM in regards to what?
Your book, you're saying.
Part 2 of these final days, right? So, does everyone have a copy in here of part 1?
We bought
You
seven.
guys already do, right? You want what?
We bought seven, we've been passing them out.
This one? Hey, let me know. Listen, you guys are the ones who financed me publishing this book and printing it, so don't be shy. You know, if you guys want another copy, you want another half dozen copies, I'll give them to you. And I'm not making an offer to everybody. I gave away a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to give away as many as part 2. But bad news about part 2, we can no longer use that trademark saying.
The what?
Why?
Drum roll.
In English?
Drum roll. Ready for this? Da-da-da-da-da.
Oh.
I know that, like, that's it for real. Now it's all white pages inside, just blank. But no, I'm joking. So this came in the mail this morning.
Wow.
This is the final proof of part 2. This thing's 100%. I was so excited this morning. This is actually my second proof, and that's not bad to go through 2 proofs before it's perfect. It took me forever to figure out the formatting, but this thing is perfect, quote unquote. If you look at this and find any mistakes, don't tell me. You can tell me. Wait a couple weeks. Let me enjoy the euphoria of like finally getting part 2 out the door. I wanted to come in with more than just the proof in my hand, and I'll pass this around, let you guys glance at it. So I went online this morning and I placed an order for 100 copies of this book. They're supposed to arrive at my house next Wednesday morning. So if all goes well, then next Wednesday I'll have a big box here. You guys all get a copy of it. Now, same deals with part 1. For you guys, of course, you all get a free copy of the book. And that's not true for everybody in the church. That's just for the people that are in my class. And like I said before, you're welcome to multiple free copies of the book. What I would request, though, is this first batch. I completely drained my ministry account. Okay? It's empty. So if you want more copies, maybe hold off until I get another printing done, and I'll be happy to give you as many as you want. So part 2, no longer coming soon. Finally, we printed. I know. So go past it. It's the very, very back page. Sorry to make you get out of that. The very, very back page. Thanks, Rob, for Keith. You guys are like twins. Get you mixed up all the time. Yeah, thank you. You'll notice on the very back page it says proof, but other than that back page it says proof. That's the book. That's just what it's going to look like. I don't like the picture on the back. I think I look kind of like a ghost, but whatever. Beth just sits there and looks at it. You're supposed to say, no, you're really good looking.
During the winter time.
It actually was. It actually was. So yeah, Ron.
Since it's my birthday, I get that copy?
You know what? I would say yes, except
Yes, Katie.
well, if you want to wait till Sunday,
I'll wait.
okay. I'm going to take that one into the radio station tomorrow, and so Bill and Chris and Elijah, don't tell anybody, but that's my big announcement. I told Mike, I'm sorry. I told Bill and Joy that I have a big announcement, but it's a surprise. So okay, don't tell. Okay.
They get tuned to the radio station, huh? And then they're gonna see everything.
Yeah,
They're really
exactly.
good on the red chair.
Yeah, there's no reason why we can't give away tomorrow. It'll just be next week before I can give them to him to sit down. So thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl has the best ideas.
I tell you.
She really does.
Yeah.
So okay, with all that, oh my gosh, we'll go and have a class or what? Let's go and have our class. I'm just excited, boy, to finally get that thing out the door. And I got to start working on part 3. Okay.
Are you coming soon-ish, Tina?
Yeah, that's true. We can just like move the TM to the next version. Yeah, part 3 now. So coming soon-ish. Yeah, gonna be a long one. All right. So you guys hopefully remember where we left off. So we have been looking at the history of. Do I want to do this whole thing here? The history of our world since the Middle Ages. Okay, I'll just leave it there. That's fine. And all this is in the context of America in Bible prophecy, right? That little tablet just is not behaving how I want. So this is our overarching topic right now is American prophecy, right? But over the last, what's it been now, a month and a half, we've been looking at American history again, starting from about the time of the Middle Ages, working our way up. So we saw that The Middle Ages, also known as the Dark Ages, came to an end in the year 1300, right? The Ottomans took over Constantinople. They sent a bunch of Greek manuscripts from the library there to Florence, Italy, and that sparked this amazing revolution that is still reverberating throughout the whole world today. It began the Renaissance, which led into the scientific revolution, which led into the Protestant Reformation. I got those two reversed, which led into the Enlightenment, right? And then the Enlightenment, all these forces combined led. Oh, hey, John. John's here. Like snuck in. Did you hear the announcement about part 2? Well, you'll see it when it comes by you. Okay, there it is right there. So all of these processes are leading toward something huge, and I think that you're going to finally start to see this puzzle come together a little bit tonight. We're going to start to see this. Okay, so
Can I bring up one thing?
please do.
You know, with Trump and all the stuff that's going on, and he's getting backlash no matter what he does.
Yeah.
But all the efforts of the global leaders that he's been meeting with, and I keep this scripture, peace, peace, then sudden destruction.
Yeah.
It's like he is playing into this end time scenario.
Yeah.
It just
It's all part of the story, absolutely. Just like President
Yeah.
Obama was part of the story, and President Clinton. I mean,
Yeah.
every president of the U.S. all the way back to really all the way back to George Washington. But let's say Woodrow Wilson and then FDR.
1776.
Yeah, right. Which is, but yeah, they've all played their part in this story. So listen, God is in charge of this story. We use the word history, and people like to say, that means His story, God's story, right? And I like that. That's cute. But yeah, absolutely. We start. We in here, meaning me. If you guys want to go on with it. Bless you, John.
Thank you.
God bless you, man. That was a good one. We start the end times clock ticking officially in the year 1776. Jessica, you may have missed this. I've talked about this last couple of weeks. And welcome, Jessica. She hasn't been here for a couple of weeks, so jump on in. The water's warm. So yeah, we're like right in the middle of this stuff. So, but if we could point to a single object and say that's it. That's the beginning of the last days. The last of the last days. What is that object?
The temple.
I can't believe that I stumped you guys again. Now, Chris, who her first time was last week, she's like on it because she gets a gold star. Let's go point again. Yeah, what's she pointing at? The book. Come on. Adam Smith's An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. Scottish economist purposely published this in the year 1776 to, like Kim said, very good, to coincide with the American Revolution because he rightly prophesied that America would be the grand laboratory for his amazing economic experiment theory, which is an economic system that we call
Capitalism.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, capitalism, right? Has anyone heard of capitalism? Okay, because you're in it. And I love talking about this stuff because this is all stuff that we so much take for granted, but it hasn't always been around. It really started with this book. Okay. And capitalism is important because this is the economic system that defines the world system in the last of the last days. It has to be a capitalist system. We have to have democracy. We have to have all these things for the world to function as a single unit. So for the first time in human history, we really have a world system. What man tried to begin at the Tower of Babel, what they tried to create, and God tore it down, He knocked it down. Well, we finally achieved it. It's a genuine, actual world system. It's a one world political system, one world economy, and we could debate all day long about all the differences and fighting in different political systems and liberals and conservatives, and we still have some communism going on there. Listen, this world is so intricately, tightly knit. It's like a web around the whole world. Or a net. And it's truly one system. It's indivisible. Okay, we have become this one world system that defines the end time story. That's taken all these processes to get there. So Jesus, in his great end times dissertation, which we call
Matthew 24, Luke 21.
this is why I have Kim make me a cup of coffee so I could pause and let you guys.
All of it.
Out loud.
All of it discourse.
All of it is
Okay. gold stars all the way around, which I shouldn't, because gosh, we've been talking about that for 2 years. So yes, and that's my favorite version of Olivet Discourse is in Matthew chapter 24, very good. Then
21.
it's also, yeah, and what else, Mark?
Mark 13, Luke 21.
Very good, gold star for that. Okay, so in Jesus' version, we looked at it last week, we're not going to look at it again, but in verses 4 through 14, Jesus goes into this story that he's telling to his disciples because they ask him, what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? This is the question. They want to say, what were the signs leading up to the very last of the last days, which we call the Great Tribulation. This is the time when Jesus will finally come back at the end of this, right? So Jesus tells them, he doesn't hold back, and he tells them all these things. There will be, wars and rumors of wars, and kingdom against kingdom, and nation against nation, and famine and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places, and people will become offended and will betray each other, will hate one another, and lawlessness will abound, right? So what I want to ask you, we talked about this last week, we talked about this in the past in this class. What in that list has not been happening since the beginning of time, since the beginning of human civilization? Have we had wars and rumors of wars since Cain and Abel?
Right.
Yeah. Have we had famines and pestilences?
It's in the context of Jacob's trouble, the 7-year tribulation period. That's what that's about.
Well, see, so what Jesus was describing is the time that will lead up to that last 7 years, right? And he doesn't start to talk about the last 7 years until verse 15. So verses 4 through 14, he's just saying this in the couple of centuries, and I'm putting that number on there. He didn't, but that's based on this. Started in 1776. Now we're already 200 plus years past that. But in a couple of centuries leading up to that last 7-year period, all this stuff will be happening. But what's different about it? Why does Jesus say all this stuff that was happening in the disciples' day? Because what he was describing is, look, these things are going to become acute. They might be chronic at that time. They're going to reach a climax. They're going to be worldwide. They're going to be unprecedented in scope. All of these things. So if, and we've done this before in here, and later on in this study, we'll look at the charts again. I don't want to take the time now, but that means that if we were to look at a chart, let's say of wars and conflicts between nations from the time of Christ to now, we should expect to see it like this, and then just about the last 100 or so years go like this. And in fact, we see that. We'll look at them again. I'm not going to take the time now. Famine, 10,000 years of human history, last 100 years, boom, spike like this. You guys remember these charts?
Yeah.
Okay, you better say yes, or I'm going to be showing them next week.
There's a movie called Convergence, documentary on it.
Yes, I know.
I have it.
Yeah.
It delineates some of these.
I haven't seen it, but I get an email for it every day. I should buy it.
I got it.
And listen, and I'm getting my data from the United Nations, from the U.S. Geological Survey. Every reliable source you can think of. The United States Department of Treasury. I'm not just looking at end times guys, because we're all nuts when we get stuff out, right? But I shouldn't say I'm sorry. But we try not to. But I look at the actual real raw data, and I'm telling you, and even earthquakes of all things, 10,000 years, and then boom, the last 100 years. Wow.
50 years.
Tsunamis, tidal waves, boom, last 100 years. Why? Floods, right? Volcanic activity. It's crazy. Well, crime, of course. Listen, everything you could think of, and if we all were 2,000 years old in here, first of all, we look pretty good for our age, right? But if we were all 2,000 years old, we would be aware of how insane these times are and how acute all this stuff has become. Because we would remember, my gosh, 150 years ago, the world was nothing like this. It's crazy what's happened just in the last century. It's because we're drawing close to that time, those last 7 years. And so when we read Jesus' words in all the discourse, we know that that's what he's describing. It's worldwide, unprecedented scale. We have raw numbers, raw data, raw statistics to prove it. It's happening right now. So now that's Jesus' version of the end times, his story about the end times, right? His take on it.
Please say that tomorrow on the radio.
Sure, if they let me talk that much.
Every word.
Yeah. If it's just Bill on there, I'll get away with it. Actually, you know what Bill said? You know what Bill told me? He said, as soon as part 2 is published, he's going to have me on at least twice on his morning program And there we can talk about anything, so,
Nice.
so I'll be hitting it hard with,
Nice.
with Bill, yeah, and I can do it now, it's like a part two vote. Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's good, that he's gonna let you talk about it.
Yeah.
They don't do enough of that on the radio.
See? She knows.
But they do the radio, and I don't feel talking about the last day.
It's not even on the radar.
I know.
All the churches.
Nobody can talk
I
about
will-
Jeremiah.
I will voice your complaint. So, listen, and I'll tell you guys, are we surprised by that? And I don't mean that from like a cynical end times guy. Yeah, you know, everyone has their heads in the sand. But you know, let's be real. And I understand this. You know, people don't want to hear about this stuff. I mean.
They don't want to
'Cause they love the
scare
world.
the people.
And then-
Well, yeah,
It's
it's, you
not
know,
fair.
listen.
They don't wanna take
That's
it.
what
It's
people
that
don't
simple.
feel well,
Baby
it's
on the
gonna
track.
take work.
Yeah, I didn't become a Christian. I mean, I became a Christian when I was 4, so I'm being like, just like an example here, okay? Like, but I mean, I don't think any of us in here became a Christian to hear about how the world's going to end and everything's going to fall apart and it's going to be, you know, they're going to be trying to cut our heads off. We became a Christian because we were lost, and it was, what does the gospel mean? Good news. Jesus saves us, and then he blesses us and prospers us and heals us, and our families can have a hope and a future, and we know that they're protected. We didn't become Christians so we could hear all this scary negative stuff, so I get it. That shouldn't be the main message of the body of Christ. And yet,
As in the days of Noah.
It got me in.
it's true, and yet Jesus himself, who taught a whole bunch of very positive messages, he actually healed the sick, he actually raised the dead, he actually fed the hungry, he did all these miracles, he showed us what God has for us, right? He himself was raised from the dead, resurrected from the dead, so that he could show us your destiny is not to even be in the grave, but I'm life. I'm here to give you eternal life. And yet, his last message to mankind was what? It was the Olivet Discourse. It was, okay, all that said, that last generation, which is us, this is what they're going to have to go through.
Establish
All
the
that
kingdom.
said,
It's his kingdom.
yeah, there's going to be persecution, there's going to be tribulation, they'll deliver you up and kill you for my name's sake. Jesus' own words, okay? So yes, I understand Christianity should be a very, very positive message. Should we just completely bury that last little bit of scary stuff that Jesus brought
You
up?
mean hell?
You know, if we lived 100 years ago, fine. If we lived 500 years ago, no problem. We can't in this generation because we are that generation. We are the generation that Jesus ultimately meant that message for. So now, if Jesus taught that, that was Jesus's presentation of the end times. What is the Bible's most famous presentation of the end times? The biggest one. God saved it for last. It's the last book of the Bible. Thank you.
Yeah. Part.
Yes. Yeah, the book of Revelation. So if Jesus' story about the end times included this component, not just jumping right into this, what's going to happen during the Great Tribulation, but telling us over the course of 11 verses what's going to actually be happening during that time, what to expect, what to watch for. Would we expect any less from John? Do you think that John might have done the same thing in the book of Revelation? And of course, he was just following the direction of Gabriel, okay, and the other angels who were revealing things to him. So what would we expect in the book of Revelation? Even more detail about not just the last days, but the events and conditions and phenomena that would precede it. Did I mention that I drained my ministry fund down to zero today? So I can order books for you guys to give you free copies. Right? So let's go ahead and pass the offering bucket, and I greatly appreciate. Listen, I mean, I ordered 100 books today, and I did that because you guys give into this bucket. So thank you so much. Seriously, just pray tremendous blessing over you guys for supporting this ministry. Look around. This is not the kind of crowd that, like, Urban Baxter and Tim Lake and Hal Lindsey and all those guys get, but you guys are doing awesome work. I thank you for being so generous. And online too, if you want to donate to the ministry, there's a button on there that says donate. Just click the button, and I appreciate it. People are actually giving online too, which is exciting. So yeah, thanks. Okay, good. So no longer coming soon. Part 2, yay. Okay, so now again, what Jesus described is the same thing that we're going to get from John in the book of Revelation. Jesus, and here, let me put up a graphic that goes along with this. If Skylar's cat will behave. Come on. I'm going to either have to get a new tablet. I don't know. Okay. So John does, in fact, describe for us events and conditions on Earth, phenomena. And this, and as you might guess, if you think about it for a second, this all relates directly to what we've been doing over the last, month and a half, looking at world history leading up to this time that we're in now. Okay, this is where it all gets tied together with Scripture now. Okay, what we've been watching, because everything we've discussed, the Enlightenment, the Scientific Revolution, the Protestant Reformation, the Industrial Revolution, it's all leading the world towards something. It's like a tidal wave. It's like an avalanche. It just can't be stopped. I mean, this whole process is just, it's like a freight train coming down the track at full speed. Okay, it's going to happen. It's all leading toward something, and this is what John described. So these are what we refer to as, okay. And another way to refer to them, which is a little bit more complex, most people don't know this, but they're actually 4 of 7 of something else.
7 seals.
Thank you, Gold Star for Beth. 7 seals, okay, and it doesn't mean like the cute things in the ocean go, "Arr, arr, arr," that was dumb.
Way to go.
Yeah, I do my best in here, Yeah, usually it's just like dry humor or something like that. Actually, okay. So yes, watch this now. Yes, 7 seals on a scroll. Okay, and only Jesus is found worthy to open this scroll, and so it's just symbolic, of course. But the scroll is actually God's decree of judgment upon this world. Man has finally succeeded. What we began at the Tower of Babel, we finally succeeded. We built the world system, I mean truly a global world system that the Antichrist himself is going to be able to exploit. Okay, it's all about man. Remember Protagoras? Man is the measure of all things. This is the world we live in. Humanism. Okay. Now we love God and Christ and the Holy Spirit. We worship our Father and all that. But even us, whether we realize it or not, we are just steeped and soaked and drenched in this concept of humanism. It's look what we can do as humankind. We have to be careful about that. There's coming a day, probably very, very soon, when we will all be declared enemies of this system to the point where they're trying to cut our heads off. Okay, so should I say that on the radio tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So the 7 seals, and again the first 4, what we refer to as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because of the way that they're symbolically represented. Jesus goes through and he breaks one after another. And again, when is the first seal broken? You guys know this. I have so much fun teaching here because you guys are like the smartest people I know, and I can still stump you. Because sometimes I ask really obvious questions. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you for the exact year that the first seal is broken. Hint.
1947.
1776. Yay, you're so good. Okay. Very generally speaking, I mean, of course, that's an arbitrary designation, but I'm sticking to it. Okay. So the first seal's already been broken. The first horseman's already run. Has already run. Okay. It's actually true of all 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, according to my interpretation of it, and I'll show you why I say this. You could draw your own conclusions. The 4 horsemen have already run. Okay, we are now somewhere between the 5th and the 6th seal. When the 7th seal is broken, that is when God unleashes the 7-year Great Tribulation on the earth. Now, right there, you guys might kind of cringe a little bit. Wait a minute, did he just say that God starts the Great Tribulation? Oh gosh, without a doubt, and I'm going to show it to you eventually. Actually, I'll give you a hint. God himself, make no mistake, God himself, by his own hand, is going to start the 7-year Great Tribulation. Okay, he's going to do something so dramatic that I doubt that any of you have ever heard any end times teacher or any other teacher teach this. And the Holy Spirit's already dealing with me on this. He's speeding up the process because it took me a few years to get bold about what I teach in part 1 of my book series. Part 2, he's telling me, let's not do that dance again. Don't be all humble and shy and all that. He said, look, this is what you see. This is what you wrote. Just say it, okay? So the 7-year Great Tribulation, God starts by what?
The world or the peace treaty?
I'm not going to call it new Peru. Yeah, I can't pronounce it.
Wormwood.
Well, look on that. That's fine. Although wormwood is actually just a piece of this thing. Okay. So I'm gonna proclaim very boldly, and I will say this on the radio tomorrow. are. I gotta throw myself out there, okay? I have a lot of controversial ideas, and I know why they're controversial. Look, I mean, I'm already taking away the rapture before the Great Tribulation, saying that we're all gonna have to go through it, okay? And now I'm saying that it starts with what? What do you see on the cover there? A comet hitting the earth. You guys think I'm crazy now? It just, I'll show it to you, don't worry. Jessica's like, what? I got in this class, I thought this guy was cool. He's nuts. Oh my gosh. Call somebody. Yeah, I'm going to show it to you, okay? I describe it in great detail in the first half of this book. A comet is going to strike the earth. And God, it's actually Revelation chapter 8, the first couple verses, describe an angel by God's direction throwing this object, a very large rock. I mean, in the book of Daniel, we read about a rock that is not made with human hands, that's thrown at the earth, and it destroys the world system. Huh? I don't know. I mean, well, no, I can answer that. Because Nibiru, am I saying that right? Is a planet, right? Supposedly, it's like a planet that. Let's see if I can set that there without everything falling over. In a minute or two, they're going to fall over like dominoes. Faster than that. Well, anyways, here. So I tried. But what do you see there? Is that a planet? That is in my little graphic there on the cover? It's not a planet.
Looks like a comet.
Thank you.
Cosmic debris.
You know, Cheryl's the smartest one in here. She's always like this. Yes. It's not even an asteroid, okay, because I do believe that the Bible describes a major cosmic impact event, and so that could be an asteroid or a comet or some other object. I have very good reason to believe that it's a comet, okay? It's none of the above. It's not a planet, not an asteroid, any other. It is a comet, all right? There's a very big reason for that. I said a second ago that wormwood is just a piece of this. So when this thing hits us, it has to come in a series of waves. It's not going to come in all at once. But this is all described. I'm getting way ahead of our story here because I'm so excited about the book.
Yeah.
This is all described in the seven trumpets. It's the seven trumpets in the book of Revelation. The seven trumpets. This event, okay, begins with the first trumpet. This is the beginning of the 7-year Great Tribulation. Before any of this starts, though, again, seal number 7 has to be broken. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to take a very close look at the first 4 seals. Because right now I believe that we're between the 5th and the 6th seals, okay? The first 4 seals are broken, no question. The 5th one, maybe. The 5th seal's weird. It's the cry of the martyrs. It's the spirit of those the righteous dead who have been murdered over the centuries for their faith in Christ. They're under the altar of heaven, and they're crying out to God, when are you going to give us justice? When are you going to destroy this world system? When are you going to do it? And so is that happening right this minute? Probably. So that's why I say the 5th seal is probably broken too. We don't know for sure. The 6th seal, that to me looks like some kind of a major nuclear altercation involving Israel. We'll talk about that, much later. Although I do discuss it in part 2 here. So when you guys get the book, if you actually read it, you'll see that in there. So meantime, the 4 horsemen, they're going to follow the same pattern as Jesus' prelude to the 7-year Great Tribulation. You remember I said that what was different about the wars and the rumors of wars and the famines and pestilence? What's different? What was Jesus? How is it different than what's been happening for 10,000 years of human history?
Such as the world has never seen is happening.
Unprecedented.
Yes.
Convergence coming together.
Historic proportions, completely unprecedented. I mean, drastically by orders of magnitude greater. Okay. Also worldwide, which we've never seen before in human history. Okay, we want to be watching for this. And the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, they follow the same pattern. Okay, that's what I want you to watch for, right? Generally speaking, they're man-made phenomena. And I say generally speaking because we know that wars and rumors of wars and even famines, we could point to human activity. But last week, Kim challenged me. She said, well, what about earthquakes? And don't say fracking. And I agree with that.
Right.
But that's not what I mean. What I mean is what Paul says. All of creation groans for the redeeming of the sons of man, right? So, or the sons of God, rather. So even earthquakes, because how else do you explain it? How else do you explain just this crazy spike in earthquake activity like we haven't seen in 10,000? It's just like this for 10,000 years. How far back the geological record goes accurately. They could probably go much farther back than that. And then all of a sudden, in the last 100 years, just like that. Why? because the earth is reacting to us, because the earth is reacting to the sin in this world, to the world, I'd sound like a nut. To you guys, does that ring true?
Yeah.
Do you think that the actual natural world's going to react to the sin? And if I'm telling the truth, and even though we live in it, we don't know because we have nothing to compare it to, that the sin of this world is greater by orders of magnitude than it's ever been in human history. That if someone got in a time machine 200 years ago and came to today, they'd probably die of a heart attack in the first hour when they saw what this world's become. We're all used to it. We can handle it.
So we merge it out.
Right? Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Look at the scripture too, that Jesus said, they said, the Lord stopped them from praising. He says, if they stop, he says, the rocks will even cry out. From creation, God has ordained everything to praise. The trees and the fields clap their hands. That's in Psalms.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't saying that, oh, they got voices, but God is created. They are all living beings. And then when the Garden of Eden was created, everything was peaceful. And then when Adam and Eve fell, all that was the start of the demise, leading up to that. And it says, yes, that all creation is groaning. When there's a storm, a tsunami, a tornado, animals watch their habits. They can sense it before humans understand it.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
So the same thing,
Absolutely.
all creation groans long.
Yeah, they're tuned in way better than us.
Yes.
They're not distracted with all the sin and everything else going on. So, one last condition here with the four horsemen I want you guys to watch for. One naturally flows to the next. Okay, it's a natural progression. Okay, so with these hints about what to look for, which is all logical, right? Isn't all reasonable? Worldwide, all that. I want you guys, with your understanding that we have so far of human history, what I've been trying to show, what I've been trying to build here, okay, this comprehension, this understanding. Watch this now. So the Renaissance naturally led to the Protestant Reformation, which naturally led to the Scientific Revolution, which naturally led to the Enlightenment, which naturally led to the various revolutions that we talked about, which naturally led to the Industrial Revolution, because this was the main revolution, capitalism, which promotes industry, right? And there's more stuff coming up. Watch this. We're going to lay a little foundation first, and then we're going to wrap it up with this, and then we're going to actually get into detail about all this next week, okay? So I'm going to read the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and then we're going to call it a night because I got like 4 minutes on the clock here. And so I'm not going to comment or anything. What I want to tell you is that where we go from here in our history study, you're going to see all this stuff. And I'm going to keep tying it back to the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And I think you're going to see this crystal clear, okay? Or clearly, I think I was supposed to use an adverb there. Okay, this is John talking, writing, and he says, "Now I saw when the Lamb," that's Jesus, "opened one of the seals." This is the first seal of the 7 seals, also known as the first horseman of the apocalypse. "And I heard one of the 4 living creatures up in heaven saying with a voice like thunder, 'Come and see.'" Now watch this. Watch this. "And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him." That represents authority. "And he went out conquering and to conquer." Now think about this. Worldwide, unprecedented, building the world system, right? Okay. Second horseman. We're going to get into detail about this next week. When Jesus opened the second seal, remember only Jesus can open the seals, "I heard the second living creature saying, 'Come and see.'" So here's the second horseman. "Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and the people should kill one another." First time in human history, worldwide. Clicking it all? Thinking of anything? Last 200 years, right? "And the people," you got it, "and the people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword." That means military might of unprecedented proportion. Roman Empire had nothing on us. They had nothing on Australia. They had nothing on Canada, okay? Look what we can do today. Third horseman. "When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, 'Come and see.' So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand." This one's tricky. But remember, one thing naturally leads to another. On a global scale, conquering, going out and conquering, taking over nations, that naturally leads to global war, which naturally leads to this. Watch this. "And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, 'A quart of wheat for a denarius.'" A denarius, when John wrote this, was 1 denarius would purchase about 10 mules or 10 donkeys. So imagine a little quart of wheat, the same cost as 10 donkeys.
That's inflationary capitalism.
There's another word for it. Very, very close, and yes, exactly, close related. Okay, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine, which symbolize luxury, which symbolize wealth. Don't touch those. So what I believe that this is describing, which perfectly fits into human history over the last 100 years, let me just tell you right now, I mean perfectly, extreme global economic disparity. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, the rich are richer than ever in human history, the poor are poorer than ever in history, and it's global. And it's so clear. We're going to be looking at all this stuff closely. Last Horsemen, and then we're done for tonight. And we're going to come back next week and hit the ground running. When Jesus opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying, "Come and see," and here is our final horseman of the apocalypse, the 4th horseman. So I looked and behold a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And Hades is really a Greek word. It's another word for death, or the realm of the dead. So it's just talking about extreme death, okay? And power was given to them over 1/4 of the earth, 25% of the earth, unprecedented in human history. People would debate this right now and say it's a lot more than that. It's at least 1/3 of the earth is suffering, what this describes here. To kill with sword, just conflict everywhere, war everywhere. Never seen this before in history, with hunger, global famine. Do you guys ever watch TV? You see the commercials with the kids in Africa? I mean, come on. In South America and Asia, with death, and by the beasts of the earth, which we can interpret different ways. Maybe this is referring to diseases, because we know that, pestilence, and we've never seen it like we see it today. Pandemics and diseases killing off, millions. Right?
Bird flu.
So, just we could go down the list of things we've seen. So this is our 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. What we're going to do again over the next few weeks here is we're going to continue our study of history, and we're going to do it in the context of these guys now. Now we're into these guys. All right. So come back next week if you feel a little lost, or who does? Are you guys doing okay? You guys, I think you guys are like finally getting what I'm getting at here. So it's great. So come back next week. We're going to start to really get into this, and it's going to be exciting. Come back and listen tomorrow on the radio if you think that, and then you could tease me next week for being too shy about it. What's that?
YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you say is what's been happening all over the world. People are killing each other. That's exactly what's been happening.
Yeah.
And it's been on the news 15 times. I've seen it on the news.
I think it's just a
And I've
start.
seen it on KBL and show the children in Africa, how they're being treated. That's exactly what's happening.
Worse than ever in human
It's
history.
happening.
Yeah. It is. We're that generation, Cheryl. So, okay, I'm going to close in prayer. Father God, we just thank you for tonight, Lord. I thank you for these people, Father, the watchmen of this generation, Father. You've called us to this, to keep our ears to the ground and to pay attention, keep our eyes open. I thank you for unfolding revelation, more revelation than we've ever had before, Father God. I thank you that you're illuminating these things to us. I pray for an increase of the Holy Spirit over each one of us here, Father, like we've never been filled before. I thank you for that anointing, Father. For each one here, I pray long life, divine health, increased prosperity, love, joy, and peace in their lives, and just bless each one as they go tonight, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks. Come back this week.